Hey all, Mr. T-Bone here. So let's go ahead and talk about Africa. So first off, we got the Nok. Okay, Nok are really awesome. They were the first in Africa that we know of to use iron to make iron tools. Okay, so they're iron workers, which is very impressive because being the first to make iron is particularly difficult because you can't use iron to help you make it, and it's very difficult to make iron without iron. Anyway, it's just all the banging and all the different things that you need to use iron. They may have figured out how to work iron and how to melt iron individually. They may have also gotten it from the Middle East. The first group that we know to, or the oldest group to know that we know used extensive ironworking was the Hittites up in modern day Turkey. Excuse me. Eventually, iron will lead to steel, which is iron mixed with other additives to make it even stronger. But Iron Age, super, super important. Okay. Very difficult to get here. Folks in the Americas never got here. It's very difficult to think that if you heat up a particular type of rock hot enough, a liquid will come out and you can use that to make weapons. Okay. That is not an intuitive idea. So it's very difficult to come up with the idea and then to turn that into tools is very impressive. So really cool to see. Africa actually has a long history of iron and steel, and some of the weapons that come out of Africa are actually really impressive, and some of the ironworking that comes out of there is really, really cool. So they do a lot of farming. However, they're so successful with farming that but they didn't know anything about crop rotation. Okay. And they didn't really know much about their environment. So when you cut down forests and you farm the same area for a long time, it stops being productive because all the minerals and stuff like that come out of the ground, and then nothing will grow. And so they actually they sort of went into a position where they were no longer able to sustain their large population. This is an early example of human climate change. Smaller scale, of course. But this is an important lesson. Ghana, very important. Looking at the nation of Ghana and how it grows. The Mali Empire is particularly impressive, and then later we'll talk about the Shanghai Empire. Definitely impressive. Okay, lots of gold in these nations. Lots and lots of gold here. The important thing about gold is that it's not valuable unless it is, much like diamonds, it's not valuable unless it is rare. And so what we'll see is in the Empire of Mali, they had some experience with this. Now, I'm a little frustrated personally with this story. They talk a little bit about Mansa Musa and his travel. Okay, he left no holder of royal office without the gift of a load of gold, right? And he gave away so much gold that he led to a decline in the precious metals value and ruined the Egyptian economy. Now, here's the thing. What this doesn't really tell you a lot about is Mansa Musa goes and he takes a pilgrimage to Mecca. All good Muslims are supposed to take a pilgrimage to Mecca. And so he does that. He's a good Muslim guy. And he really, really believes in Islam. So he's building a mosque, and he's building universities and hospitals everywhere he goes. And he's giving away so much gold, just donating as he is traveling. The problem is if everyone has gold, it becomes less valuable because it's no longer a commodity. Everyone has access to it. So what happens is the price of gold falls. And the economy of a lot of different places ends up wrecked for like 12 years as Mansa Musa is traveling through all of these places because he's giving away for free so much gold. And I mean, if you think about it, like an Xbox is or a PlayStation 5, very expensive, hard to get. But if everyone had one, and then some people have two or three, then they're not quite as valuable anymore. I mean, you still want one, sure, but you don't need two, you don't need three. Once you have enough, your desire to get another one is very low. And it's same with gold. Like when you have some, like, okay, I have some, I feel pretty good now. I don't need that. Don't need to do the same stuff, give up the same stuff in order to have more. So there's so much gold around in the economy as he's traveling from his empire in Mali all the way through the Sahara to Egypt. Okay, and I think technically he went this way, south or east, and then up through the Nile or something. Anyway, but very, very impressive trip that he took in order to go to Mecca. But so he goes, and the price of gold just falls. Everyone's got it. It's not that valuable anymore. And so he, on his way back, he's like, oh no, I've caused a problem. So what he does is not only does he create the first like huge thing of gold inflation. Inflation is what we call when the price of money goes way down and what something can buy is not the same anymore. If a burger costs $1 at McDonald's, but then inflation happens, maybe it costs $5 for that same burger. Okay. So he realizes that this inflation has happened. So he goes and he fixes the inflation by doing something that we still do today, or at least the Fed does today, the federal government will do, federal treasury, is borrowing money at high interest rates or different interest rates. And what he did is he ended up essentially getting all of this gold back and paying these people so that their price of gold leveled out. Very brilliant man, and very, very really lived the values of Islam in that he created all of these churches, these mosques, these universities, these hospitals. He did everything he could to be a good person. I mean, he also conquered a bunch of people and thus killed a bunch of people. But, great men are not always good men. It's always hard to say, Great men can do good things and bad things. Anyway, that's really all I got. The other thing, I guess, I talked about an oral tradition here for Africa. I also want to point out Greece and Egypt, all those places, also had an oral tradition. The famous book, the Iliad and the Odyssey, those were originally done. They were just memorized. They weren't written down for a very, very long time. And so people would memorize them as a poem. I believe, actually, Stephen Colbert has memorized the J.R.R. Tolkien's books, the Silmarillion as well as the Two Towers, in the same style. There's a strategy that you use to memorize a book so that it is repeatable. So oral tradition can actually be very accurate, which is kind of crazy. And it is impressive what we can remember and what we can pass down to people. So it's very interesting. But it can actually be very accurate too. So it's kind of cool. All right. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys. Have a good one.